Which smartphone horror games do you remember? I was pondering over this recently and decided to take a look back at all the most iconic and popular mobile horror titles, alongside you, of course. These are the exact projects that basically shaped our childhoods, introducing many of us to the horror genre for the first time while earning massive popularity and love from players back in the day. These gems are exactly what we are diving into in this video. Get comfortable, because right now we are moving to our very first guest, whom every single one of you definitely knows, meaning it has been out for a whole 8 years already. It was crafted by a Swedish indie developer. Personally, whenever I think about mobile horror games, Granny is the first thing that pops into my head, and I bet it is the same for most of you. In this game, your character wakes up inside an old woman's house, and your goal is to escape within just 5 days. Granny herself is blind, yet she catches absolutely every single sound perfectly. So our main task is naturally to be as silent as humanly possible. And I remember the days of running away from Granny back in my childhood. This game truly became legendary and absolutely blew up the internet during its prime, which is why everyone knew about it. Riding on the wave of this massive success, Granny also received several sequels featuring fresh characters and a ton of new content. However, as time went on, people simply forgot about the game. As for why that happened, you can find out in my dedicated video on that topic. Go check it out, you definitely won't regret it. But let's leave the old lady behind, since everyone already knows everything about her, and move on to our next, perhaps even more fascinating guest. Evil Nun is a title that many of you have undoubtedly heard of, even though it didn't capture a massive following around here, especially when compared to something like Granny. But if we cast aside the hype and look at the games themselves, they are incredibly similar. Only here, instead of a grandma, we face a nun, a malicious nun. Just as the title implies, everything else is pretty much the same. Perhaps its main strength is that the game was genuinely terrifying, especially back then. By the way, the Nun debuted a year after Granny, launching on mobile devices, of course, and was developed by the Spanish studio Keplerians. The plot of Evil Nun revolves around us arriving at a summer camp where, predictably, horrific events unfold, specifically brutal massacres, and as you can guess, once we arrive, all the real action begins. At the end of 2023, Evil Nun also arrived on PC, where it changed significantly for the better. The visuals, along with the atmosphere, got a major upgrade, making the gameplay way more engaging, and overall, this version was highly praised by many. At the same time, I certainly cannot call that original 2018 mobile Nun game bad, because just like Granny, it truly shaped my childhood. Back in those days, it felt incredibly cool and, above all, eerie. But let's keep moving forward, because we still have several highly intriguing guests waiting for us today. Angry Neighbor is that exact Hello Neighbor clone that actually succeeded. It launched in early 2017 and was essentially just a clunky copy of the original Neighbor game, tailored for mobile devices. Yet the game managed to break the internet and capture a lot of attention. I think back in childhood, or maybe later, everyone downloaded it at least once, or at least heard about Angry Neighbor. During those days of massive hype surrounding Hello Neighbor, the full main game wasn't even out yet, and nobody was even thinking about a smartphone port. But there were tons of fans who didn't own a computer and couldn't play those early alpha builds of the original Hello Neighbor, and they desperately wanted to run away from a neighbor somewhere. In essence, Angry Neighbor became their ultimate salvation. Naturally, big YouTubers didn't stay behind either, and rapidly started pumping out videos not just on the original Neighbor, but also on this mobile clone, and from there, everything snowballed. Over time, people completely forgot about Angry Neighbor, of course. If things were going poorly for Hello Neighbor back then, and honestly still are, then the fate of this bald little guy was completely obvious right from the start. So let's just leave this behind and keep moving. Ice Scream is another horror title from the creators of The Nun, a story about an ice cream man that you have definitely heard of, and many of you likely even downloaded. The game introduces us to a seemingly friendly ice cream vendor with a colorful van who turns out to be a ruthless killer kidnapping children. Sounds promising already, right? Despite its simplicity, the concept turned out to be incredibly effective and successful. So successful successful that the game gained massive popularity and tons of attention right after its release in 2019. The developers loved it so much that they pumped out 8 whole chapters of this Ice Cream Man, along with a bunch of spin-offs and even multiplayer modes. Though in some places it is completely baffling what it even is, why it exists, and most importantly, why there is so much of it. Fortunately, the 8th chapter turned out to be the final one, and they seem to have stopped for now. Speaking of the plot, everything starts when the Ice Cream Man captures our friend, freezes him, and locks him inside his van. Naturally, we rush to the rescue all by ourselves, and that is where the real adventure kicks off. As for the rest, the graphics are neat for mobile devices, and the loop is far more engaging than that of the Nun or Granny. Here we get cool puzzles and multiple locations right from the very first chapter. On the downside, I can only point out that the game, unfortunately, is not scary at all. But either way, Ice Cream is a solid franchise, particularly for its era. And for some, the Ice Cream Man, just like the other horrors in this video, truly defined their childhood and left nothing but warm memories. By the way, its developers, Keplerians, have a few other popular horror titles that many of you surely know, since they also caused quite a stir back in the day, but I suggest saving them for the second part, which I will definitely produce if you show that you genuinely want it. Let's aim for 15,000 likes, and I will immediately rush to make the next part for you. For now, let's keep going. The Baby in Yellow, or simply put, The Infant in Yellow, is a game that launched in early 2021 on mobile and also blew up the internet on day one. Just think about it. Let's plays of this game were pulling in tens of millions of views. The hype around this baby was absolutely insane. The earliest build of the game hit PC back in mid-2020 and was put together in just 2 days from scratch for a game jam event where developers competed against each other to showcase their skills by creating games in literally a day or two. By the way, the famous Baldi was also created for a similar game jam, unexpectedly blowing up and gaining massive popularity right after launch. In The Baby in Yellow, we act as a babysitter, looking after a bizarre child while his parents are away for unknown reasons. Initially, everything goes perfectly smooth, but over time, the tone of the game shifts dramatically and strange things start happening around the house. All of this is, of course, the doing of the baby, who turns out to be far from ordinary. The Baby in Yellow truly won the hearts of many, otherwise it wouldn't have gained such immense popularity, and for some, just like the other titles today, it completely defined their childhood. Luckily, the creators at Team Terrible are still working on the project and releasing various updates, even if not very frequently. Huge respect to them for not abandoning the baby even now, after what seems like so many years. An interesting fact is that before the proper mobile release of The Baby in Yellow in late 2020, a spin-off of the main game called Babylirious was released, created specifically for the YouTuber H2O Delirious by the development team itself. It was an almost completely overhauled version of the baby with fresh elements, where the main character was the YouTuber himself taking care of his daughter, Babylirious. That was a highly unusual project from Team Terrible. Due to the massive similarity to the main game, many dubbed Babylirious as the baby, only in pink instead of yellow. Regardless, both games turned out genuinely great, but once again, their sole flaw is that just like the Ice Cream Man, they are not scary whatsoever. An eerie atmosphere, let alone any actual fear, is unfortunately entirely missing from them. Meanwhile, we move forward to what is probably the most iconic and oldest mobile horror game, at least out of this video. Eyes, the horror game, launched all the way back in February 2013 and essentially laid the foundation for absolutely every mobile horror title that followed. In short, a true legend. We have zero information about its developers, and the game itself was inspired by the slender PC games that were trending at the time. The core loop consists of us simply walking through a massive house and collecting bags of coins, with 20 of them scattered around in total. But obviously, we weren't alone in the house, as various monsters roamed alongside us. The game hyped up immensely during its time. After all, it was 2013. 2013, and similar projects for smartphones didn't exist at all back then. Therefore, Eyes instantly grabbed the attention of tons of players and, of course, YouTubers. As for the storyline, initially there simply wasn't one, absolutely none at all. But as soon as the project blew up, the developers immediately began studying fan creations and lore, integrating the best ideas into their game, assessing its quality. Overall, for a mobile title, it was just decent, though the visuals or gameplay certainly didn't cause any wow factor, even in those years. But it is worth noting that the game genuinely felt creepy. While it obviously looks incredibly janky today and no longer triggers any emotion, playing this during childhood was actually quite terrifying. Nowadays, hardly anyone still remembers Eyes, let alone plays it, but without a doubt, this horror title is a true classic. The entire history of smartphone horror games literally began with it, and there is no denying that. What other mobile horror games do you remember and love? Drop them in the comments. I am very curious to find out. As for me, make sure to subscribe to our social channels. This was Grimm.